The Madison County Board of Education meeting for Thursday, May 16th, 2019, regular session and work session is called to order. Mr. Curry, would you lead us in the opening prayer, please?
Sure. Let us pray. Thank you, Father, for allowing us to gather together to lead the Madison County School District. We ask for your wisdom and guidance as we lead our students, families, and schools. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
All right. I recommend approval for the agenda for May 16, 2019.
Motion.
Second.
I have a motion and a second for recommendation of approval of the agenda dated May 16th, 2019. Any discussion? If there's no discussion, all those in favor say aye.
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 All right. I recommend approval of the minutes for April 4th, the 11th, and the 18th, 2019.
Motion.
I have a motion and a second for recommendation approval of the minutes dated April 4th, 11th, and 18th, 2019. Any discussion? Give everybody a second. If there's no discussion, all those in favor say aye.
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 All right. Quick little update. I want to welcome Scout Troop 776. That's in the coming in to hang out with us. Hey guys, how are y'all doing? All right. So as part of their project is to get involved and investigate some matters that matter to them locally. And I think they all interviewed Ms. Rucker. And Ms. Rucker, you had a chance to meet these guys?
I did. They all had good questions. Some had multiple questions. We had a good discussion, and the topic that was most interesting was maybe an archery team at Monrovia Middle. We don't have one, and Legacy has an excellent one. I'm not sure about Endeavor, but anyway. So that's something they want to pursue, and I think it's a good thing.
All right. Well, very good. That might come up in the discussion later tonight when we start talking about different activities and supplements there. So thank you guys for being here. We do have graduation next week. That's going to be Tuesday and Wednesday. The first graduation time is at 2 o'clock. That's different from previous years. So we wanted to give a little bit of extra time on the transition and maybe not go so late on that. So 2 o'clock starts for all you board members. And it will be a half day for students on that May the 21st and the 22nd also. All right, and we'll get going here. We got some guests and familiar faces to us. This is with Snyder Electric, is Ms. Marissa Bunce and Mr. Todd Smith. They are going to kind of give us an update and maybe a pat on the back. I'm not sure. Todd, so feel free to take the floor or the microphone or...
Good to be back before you. Good to see
Welcome
everyone.
back.
Obviously, this feels like a second home for me. For those of you that don't know, I've been coming here since 2012 to work with y'all's school system. And it's such an honor to be here, and it's so good to see the Scouts here. I was a member of Troop 78, by the way. I'm an Eagle Scout myself, so keep with me. I'll be there one day. But, you know, to sum it all up, y'all have been one of our most important partners, not just within Alabama, not just within the Southeast, but really nationwide. You guys implemented almost $32 million worth of improvements across your schools, did some amazing things. It reduced your energy cost by 40%, which is really unprecedented in terms of driving efficiency and being a leader for not only the Huntsville area, but the North Alabama area. And we're so excited to celebrate with you tonight the $5 million milestone in savings for the school system, which is the largest milestone award in Alabama K-12 yet. So to know that you guys went from your 2013 expenditures, we went through a couple years of construction, and now we've achieved a $5 million cost reduction for the district is pretty fantastic. For everyone who doesn't know exactly what we did, what we were able to do is drive efficiency through new lighting throughout the campuses, both interior and exterior. It helped with campus safety and security. WebExes on a national scale. They've traveled to different various conferences and things and talked about y'all's commitment to sustainability, what you've done as a district. And I think you should be commended for being a leader within both Alabama and really the Southeast. So thank you so much. The one last thing I will add is we just did give or get approval today to actually implement a dual charging station for electric vehicles out front of the Board of Ed. We're going to be donating that to the school system. So that'll be pretty neat for anybody that does have an electric vehicle that decides to come up here and do business or do anything with their children up here, that they'll have an opportunity to charge their vehicles while they're here. So with that, do you have any questions for me? Anything I could expound upon or tell you?
As Todd mentioned, this is the largest milestone in Alabama K-12, but also that we've done in the Southeast as a whole. So we're so excited to be here and, celebrate this milestone with y'all. And like Todd mentioned, you've been such a valuable partner to us, and we really appreciate that. And we look forward to the years to come and as we hit more and more milestones.
We're very appreciative of your partnership and working with us and helping us reduce our overall costs, money that we can push back into the education of our children here in the Madison County school system. And we thank you very, very much for that.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
I am very appreciative to you and Schneider, but I don't think we can go without saying thank you to Mr. Wilkerson as well. I think he originally brought this whole idea up in the beginning. I had just come on the board when we first started talking to this, and I think at first we all thought he was kind of cuckoo-cuckoo. We still think that. However, this worked out really well. So thank you, Mr. Wilkerson.
It's good to see that we have that much savings, since I hear
Yeah.
teachers talking about putting their sweaters over their thermostats and all of these things.
Still, right. Well, it's, we want to keep everybody comfortable during the day as much as we can. The big thing is just to make sure that the schools aren't running at night, on the weekends, the holidays, those sorts of things. And being able to reduce those, run hours is really where you're able to cut your costs. So.
And there was, I think, and Carrie, I don't know if this was our whole system or maybe one school that we dropped the thermostat thing. We got some feedback, it was getting a little warm, so we dropped the threshold there too. Is that,
Yes, sir, that's correct. One thing that's been nice working with Snyder and been a great partner, because in the first couple of weeks of school, we recognized the first year, second year, we have, a little bit of a learning curve, and we recognized that we can drop the temperature a little bit for those really hot days, and you have a lot of movement inside and outside the school, and elementary school in particular. So Mr. Madison made the decision that we're going to lower those temperatures, and we did, and it seemed to solve our problems. Now, we don't have a real problem, when you get past October and all the way through to March. But you do that day, first 3 weeks of August. So we took care of that, and as a partner, they showed us how, and we modified it, changed it, made a big impact.
And one other thing I'll add, I don't know if all of you are aware, I'm sure most of you are aware, but you did receive one of the National Green Ribbon School Awards for the entire country. There's only 42 of them, I think, across the entire country, so that's pretty amazing. You guys were able to get one of those because they're very selective in their requirements, and I believe you guys may be going for another one to try and get rated as a second one. So congratulations on that. Anything that we can do to ever help you, let us know. We're always longtime partners of every organization you can think of in K-12. We appreciate the business, and we'll be back soon.
thank you.
Thank you.
Just go ahead and give that shout out to Mr. Keith Trawick, since he's sitting there for our green ribbon principal there that now is going to the dark side and up here with us. Dave, you want to take over the next part?
Yeah, okay. Okay, we've had 2 requests to address the board this evening. I'm wondering, I've met Ms. Hanson. Is Mr. or Mrs. Olson here? Mr. Olson, are you here? Okay. If you want to come up to the podium, and I'll go ahead and read the statement here. Okay. All comments will be limited to 5 minutes so that everyone who wishes to address the board will be given an equal opportunity to do so. In the event you wish to address the board on an issue involving the general reputation and character, physical condition, professional competence, mental health, or in some instances, job performance of an individual, the board will hear your comments in executive session. If you are unsure whether your comments should be made in executive session, you can ask us now, and our board attorney, Cynthia Thompson, will assist us.
Okay, yeah, that'd be fine. I'm not sure, so she
Okay.
can,
We'll let you know.
yeah, yeah, just holler, I'll be good.
Okay. Hold on one second.
Okay.
Thought I had this thing already. Okay, you can go ahead, start.
Okay. All right, my name's Scotty Olson. I'm at Meridianville Middle School, my son is, have a daughter at Hayes Green High School. But anyhow, my concern is, we have several good teachers trying to leave our community. We have several being pink slipped, all from Meridianville. And I've talked to several that are looking for occupation outside of our school, or our cluster. It's several, but I'm gonna bring up Coach James, which was my son's baseball coach, as an example. Last year, or in his 3 years, member of building leadership team. He's a technology committee member, budget committee member, head of schedule committee, head of PBIS committee, created Scantron rewards, teacher of the year last year, works with with everybody well, and he gets a pink slip this year. Nothing has changed at our school but one thing, but that's beside the point. Things that happen at our middle school affect our community and our high school. And I just was kind of curious if y'all knew what was going on, why we're having so many changes, and what y'all are willing to help do about it. I think that's about it. I could go on, but that was my major.
Yeah,
concern.
I appreciate
Thank you.
you speaking, and this, we won't comment as far as reasons for that. If you want to talk offline, I don't mind having a conversation with you after the board meeting or another day, and I encourage you to reach out to the principal too.
Okay, wow. I mean, I'm just curious if it's tenure issues or what. I mean, I feel like we should get some kind of explanation, because it affects our community.
Yeah, we're not allowed to discuss good name and character of employees in a public session, so we won't be able to engage in that discussion in this forum.
Okay, so we could talk afterwards?
We can.
Okay.
Or you can set an appointment with the principal too. I encourage you to do that also.
Nah, I'd rather talk to you.
Okay, all right.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Hanson?
I would like to speak.
Do I need to reread this, or you're good?
I'm good.
Okay, now go ahead.
I just want to put my opinion out there about how I don't agree with the K through 8 combining special needs class, because I don't think that you would want your typical children in a situation like that as well as a non-typical child. They should be treated the same. And I'm probably going to have an executive session just because of physical conditions and things that I would need to talk about. I have 2 pages worth of concerns, and I've discussed them with Mary Stump as well. So I just think the whole board should be aware of them and to try to reconsider this decision, because it's not a good decision for our children, whether the young children, the older children, or the teachers. It's not fair to any of the parties involved. And so I would just like to request an executive meeting after this meeting, or because I can give details as to why my child would be affected specifically, and I could put on each hat for the teachers, for the older children. As you can see, I wouldn't want my child to disturb an older child from learning to read. I mean, that's my wish for my child.
Are you asking, Ms. Hanson, that's fine, are you asking to discuss your son specifically, and that's why you wanted to do this behind closed doors?
Well, I would have some things that I would probably say that, I mean, I can say one for instance, and you can tell me if this would go behind closed doors. What happens when my child is in there that is not potty trained, and you only have 1 to 2 minutes to change him if he does number 2, and he strips down in front of all the other kids?
I got you. Okay, hold on one
Gotcha.
second. Yeah, hold on.
No, you can't talk.
not the road.
Okay, we're going to go ahead and we're going to go ahead and adjourn, and we'll take this into a closed-door session, and then we'll let you have your time to speak to the board on your topics, on your issues.
Okay.
So at this point in time, we're going to go ahead and adjourn into an executive session, and we will reconvene as soon as we are done.
We have to have a motion to.
Sorry, yes. Do I have a motion to adjourn into executive session?
Motion.
So moved. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
It's okay, that's me.
You want to go into your small conference?
We get those trees down.
We have cracks this wide. But I've seen it since we left. Really cute. Green apple.
I saw you the other day, I thought it was fat. There, working it out. Yeah, dude, you're way on the end then.
Bill Cable. Salvage those poles to reestablish somewhere.
That's, we've been, played so much baseball, both boys decided they want to play. I run, take a little bit of hit. Yet half of November, and then the marathon second week of December. It's a week and a half, it's always cold. And then they can do that. trail races. They have on the trails as well. It's on like the southwest side of Chattanooga. Gotcha. Yeah, I've been getting about 15 miles a week, sometimes 25 to 30, so. I skate through there, it's like what's wrong with it? Something just helped me. I live in Hunter, the weather's so bad. This winter, I went and got a treadmill. So like I'm doing like, I'll do my long work on the road. So anything 5 or 12 on the road. And then like I'll warm up and do my middle mile and speed. And I've got fast. It's, I've been trying to. I can always tell when I put miles on too fast with my work. Start now and for this pool. And then my IT bands. Push through it. Close up on it. That's my thing too. Being able to like, yeah, I take the about 20 minutes. My duty only goes so far. Yeah, that's my thing. It's like to go home. It's like, man, I don't have to go out. And push through it. It's like, it's really done. And that's my
Story did they tell?
no problem. I got a bit on that.
My son graduates next year.
Yeah. Real deal, I have not run that yet. We'll watch it. No, they're doing it. We went to Chicago. It's spring. That last weekend. I think about, I ain't going back to probably about 5 miles of trail. Yeah, I ain't going to stop problem. This work. Yeah, that's fine though, Jack. Jack's a bit, hey, no. I'm glad to see y'all are on the same path. Fair enough.
Yeah, I was just curious. I know,
Hey, you extend. Hey, after I said you did. After I said you did, I was like, that's cheating. You heard us say you're dead. No, when did you stop trying?
babysitter, you know. No, sir.
He said the same thing to me. I know how to win. But it's not if I win from here, I'll be here.
Good luck. Hey, keep it tight straight. Stand still.
What does he feel going through?
The Madison County Board of Education is back in session. Thank you very much for being patient. Matt?
All right, I recommend approval of the financial statements, payments of bills, and cash reports for April 2019.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? If there's no discussion, all those in favor say aye.
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 All right, I recommend approval of the following bids as attached.
Motion.
Second.
I have a motion and a second for the recommendation approval of the following bids as attached. Any discussion?
How many buses are we buying?
Oh, the buses, we're hoping to buy 20 again next year, like we did this year, with fleet renewal funds, local funds, and some of our state supplemental funds.
Okay.
We'd like to buy 22, because there's so many coming out the fleet, but at least 20.
The bid doesn't specify, but it just,
No, ma'am.
Okay.
That's per bus.
okay.
Any additional discussion?
I had one other one. On the
Go ahead.
termites, that's nothing new. We've been doing that, the Centricon or whatever that is the whole time. Is that?
Yes, ma'am.
Do you get on a business, like on a home, you get some kind of guarantee if something goes wrong, they pay for it? Does that happen in the school system too? I mean, if you get termites, there's some kind of repair thing to it?
Yeah, not with what we have currently, no, ma'am. But what we do is they check them off and up, they ratify them. We don't have, today, we don't have any issues with termites, and they catch them pretty good.
And that's, okay, we've been doing that for years.
What you consider full bond on it.
Oh, never.
Oh, yeah. There's no, we don't, okay. That's interesting. Do they, just out of curiosity, do they offer a bond?
Oh, I'm sure they do.
It would probably be more expensive.
Yes.
Yeah,
We know we can handle it, any repairs.
gotcha, okay. Anybody else? Any additional discussion? If there's no additional discussion, all those in favor say aye.
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 All right, I recommend the board award the bid for the New Hope middle grades classroom addition to Edison and Associate Incorporated for $3,398,000.
Motion.
Second, I don't have that. Wait a minute, hold on. I do. Sorry, sure, sorry. It was all lumped together. All right, go ahead, Matt, I'm sorry.
Yeah. So the bid recommendation of $3.398 million.
Okay, and Mary Louise, you motioned?
I did.
I need a second.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion and a second for the recommendation that the board award the bid for the New Hope Middle School Classroom addition to Edison and Associates Incorporated for a total cost of $3.398 million. Any discussion?
What was our original projected amount for that?
$4 million.
Okay.
Yep. Any other questions or discussion? If there is none, all those in favor of accepting the bid, say aye.
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 Aye. All those opposed? Motion passes.
All right, well, that's exciting.
It is exciting.
All right,
What's the completion date on that?
Never satisfied.
It'll be up there for school.
I am satisfied. Next summer.
all right, I recommend the board award the bid for Buckhorn High School culinary equipment to Birmingham Restaurant Supply, Bresco, at $279,617.
Motion.
Oh, I don't have.
Second.
Let me see this. That one I don't have. I have a motion and a second for the recommendation of approval of the capital improvement bid for Buckhorn High School culinary equipment to Bresco Birmingham Restaurant Supply at a cost of $279,617. Any discussion?
And the other work will be done in-house, is that right?
The majority of it.
The majority.
You will have to have some additional skilled labor to help do that work.
But you're still projecting overall it'll cost what to complete it? Do you know?
I don't know, a lot less than a bid, a whole lot less than a bid to us. We're still getting the process together.
Okay.
And part of this is going to be paid out of the Career Tech Perkins funds. That's the federal funds for Career Tech programs. So there's going to be about $125,000 out of that. We've got another, a past donation to Career Tech that will be applied towards this of $40,000. And so we're going to be using those funds towards this part too. And we had budgeted $90,000 out of the BRAC for it. But so we're going to, this is a priority, as is the Monrovia pod demolition kind of reconfiguration there too. So we're kind of going to be working through both of those projects with maybe some contract work and in-house and that kind of thing.
Do you think we should, let's see, what have we got left? We've got Lynn Fanning left, right?
That's it.
And is that it?
And the Monrovia, would there be a bid for the Monrovia pod?
Elementary pod, we're pricing out by section, and Mr. Cazar's will work on that. So we'll have the numbers. What we don't know how to protect down the cost will evolve at that point. But other than that, we roughly know the number where we are now. So we're still planning on starting next Thursday. We've got to get sections up and down to get a final price. We don't know what's underneath that floor.
That's at Monrovia Elementary. So we'll take that down.
Are we doing it according to the priority, though? I mean, because this is important.
Yeah,
it's
so
nice, but is Lynn Fanning more important?
Monrovia and Buckhorn's Culinary were prioritized above Lynn Fanning with that. So Lynn Fanning was really the last one on the list there. And we budgeted $4 million for that. And we think we're going to be able to, we're on track for that with this bid. And we think we're going to do the other contract work with the Buckhorn Culinary to kind of piece that part out and do it in-house as much as we can to minimize that, to allow us to follow through with that Lynn Fanning bid.
They've assured us that we're still on target.
Yeah, yeah, that comes in at $4 million and we'll be in good shape.
Okay. Any additional discussion? If there is none, all those in favor say aye.
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 All right, item E, I recommend approval of the assistant principal and the counselor allocation chart as attached.
Motion.
Second.
I have a motion and a second for recommendation of approval of the assistant principal and counselor allocations as attached. Any discussion?
I find it confusing. Right now, Central has 746 kids, and it's been a long time since they've had 750. And yet they have 2 principals. So it doesn't look like we followed the chart, so I'm not sure why we haven't.
Our chart last year had it pre-K through 8, and so pre-K, if you count their pre-K, they do have over 750.
Now they don't.
The recommendation this time was to not, so if you want to, changes from last year to this year, I can review that real quick, is to not include pre-K in that allocation with that, and to move our K-8s to the middle school band. And so and to have the restriction before leveling down, the school must project to a lower threshold for 3 subsequent years. For example, Sparkman is below 1,800, but they're projected next year to also be below 1,800, but 2 years from now and 3 years from now, they're projected to be above 1,800. So we're not removing, we don't want to be adding and removing an assistant principal every other year if they're on the borderline. So that asterisk that's highlighted in green there will allow keep Sparkman at 5 assistant principals, even though they're below the 1,800 threshold in the 10-12.
What is Central projected to be?
With pre-K,
Well, this be without pre-K.
okay, so without pre-K, they'll be at, let me bring that up.
He sent some, the explanation.
They're at 746 right now, their ADM. Next year projecting to 739 in 1920, 730 in 2021, and 698 in 21-22.
So they're going to lose a principal, right?
If they go to K-8, they stay at 2 until they get below 600. We made that, when we did this chart last year, we added assistant principals at our middle school, essentially. And we kept some middle schools from losing an assistant principal. For example, if we wouldn't have made this change, Meridianville would have lost an assistant principal. Sparkman Middle gained an assistant principal, and I believe Buckhorn Middle would have lost one maybe the next year. So the having 600 as the threshold for middle school to get the second assistant principal helped multiple schools with that. Central would, if we kept the same allocation card, Central would stay with 2 assistant principals for another few years.
Last time we met, they were getting an extra one. They had 3. when
Yeah,
they
that was the
changed it.
problem.
So
If we kept pre-K,
Now we wanna
they would be
put it
above
down to what?
750 and get 3, and we don't want to give them 3. Is that mean to say, Ms. Stowe? I'm sorry.
That was mean to say. But
And New Hope is getting, well, I guess, I mean, it seems like I mean, they've been having a second one. We just didn't call it a second one. We just gave them we funded a teacher and said it, and let them be an assistant principal without calling them one, right?
A quasi-administrative help, a resource is what we called them, a teacher resource. Yeah.
So it seems like it seems like the chart can get sort of bypassed. You just name a teacher to be one.
As far as staffing of local teaching units, I mean, we look at that, and our staffing as we go anytime. We look at that when we staff accordingly. The board wanted to have direct input on how to staff assistant principals. We have certain thresholds. If it's class size ratios where we add those things. In everything that we do, we consider K-8 a middle school. What we call a middle school principals meeting, they come. They have middle school sports, the same number of sports that our middle schools have. A lot of times they have a tougher time with the coveraging because they don't necessarily have the same number of middle school teachers or coaches and that kind of thing. So we felt like it was a better fit to move the K-8 there. I mean, if you look at the difference between net principals and what we have here and what we had on the last chart, it would be New Hope would be the one there. But if you look at potentially, we're looking at New Hope going to K-6 a year from now, and their high school being 712, they would go back to 1 with that there, because that would be less than 750. They'll go in the K-6 quadrant.
The elementary will go back.
Correct. And the high school would be 712, and they would have 600 kids, and they would have 2. So it would be basically self-correcting there, but it's with the big K-8, it's hard to justify why they only need 1 assistant principal, but Sparkman Middle with the same population gets 3 assistant principals. When we were discussing our internal team, that's really what it came down to.
So do we have any others in the system that are, any teachers that are are essentially assistant principals, but we just don't call them that?
We have, some schools use teaching units as a teacher resource or as a coach, that are foundation units that they earn, and they may be a math coach or an interventionist. Some may view them as being, some hold administrative degrees, but they don't come to our assistant principal meetings. And in fact, that was really one of the things that, it just really didn't fit with everything that we did, and we felt like that was a way to fix kind of that situation, is to not have a teacher resource there, and let's just give the school what they need. You know, with 700 kids in a Title I school with sports, it was really hard to justify, even if it's for 1 year, why they don't deserve or need 2 assistant principals.
Yeah, I'm not having pause with the elementary school, I'm having pause with the high school, because that puts an administrator for less than 200 kids. I mean, that's,
Which high
for
school?
New Hope High School, there's 394 kids, and we've got 2 assistant principals, so,
Yeah.
I mean, that's, counting the principal, that's an administrative person almost for every 100 kids. You don't have that anywhere else near that in the county.
Well, and if we make them 712 in a year, then they'll be, you know, that's the plan. And if that bid was able to, you know, we could have started construction on that a year ago, and we'd have it now. That's the way we'd have it there. So we see that as being, there was a unique situation that fit made sense, and we knew that projected, that's what we wanted to do.
But I don't think we should change the schedule for that. That's my point.
That's why I'm proposing it to have 0 to 800 is 2 assistant principals for high schools. I mean, you can make the argument that we shouldn't have the asterisk, you got to project down and
I think it should stay 0 to 500 because it gets 1, because you're authorizing a school that has 400 kids to have 2 assistant principals. That doesn't make any sense.
we try to do things to make things work for schools. The last 2 years, Sparkman 9 has been below 600 students. And we could have said, okay, well, you're below 600, you're going to lose an assistant principal. But we don't want to do that, and they're not projected to stay below 600 every year. The high school has 1786 right now. They're projected for 1791, then 1806 and 1810. So we're not, they're the beneficiaries this time. Sometimes, I mean, but when we want all students to be the beneficiaries. So having 2 assistant principals there, I think we've had a very good return on the investment there. We're spending less local teaching units at New Hope High School than we've probably ever have in the last decade or so, Ms. O'Bannon, would you say? So we felt like, by the way of using adjuncts instead of whole teaching units to be able to offer courses, that net we're not spending disproportionately there than what has been historically needed. So we still feel good about what we've got going on there, and it's been a good return on that.
And New Hope is our only Title I high school, and that involves a lot of paperwork and a lot of things that have to be done. And it doesn't matter how small a school is, they have the same sports everybody else has, and those administrators have to cover those. And their life is pretty grueling during football, JV, varsity, volleyball's going on at the same time, and on it goes. So, you know, they welcome the extra administrator at New Hope, and I would hate to see them lose it.
Well, if you change the schedule, I'm concerned about changing the schedule. I see that New Hope's going to get the middle school, and they're going to earn, even under the old schedule, the second one, when the middle school moves up. Is that the way you see it? Whether you change the schedule or not, they're going to earn the assistant principal when the grade configuration changes,
When the grade configuration changes to 712, they would earn the 2.
even under the old one.
Correct.
Okay, so my problem is changing the schedule because like Madison County High School is sort of skirting around the limit there, the $4.99 of the current schedule. So if you move it up to $7.99, well, all of a sudden, they're going to get to keep 2 administrators.
Right. And that's why everybody gets 2 with the way this is, 0 to 8, was it 800? 0 to 800 is 2. But again, we've only had this for a year. I mean, if we wouldn't have done it last year, Meridianville, which has less than 600 students, would have gone to 1 assistant principal. That was one of the reasons we did it, to try to, they feel like we need to put resources there to have 2 assistant principals, so that's why we changed the numbers to make sure they kept 2. Honestly, that's why we picked 600 to be is it 600, that's the threshold for 2 for middle schools? Mm-hmm. Yeah, and they're below 600 right now, but they're projected to be back above 600 when there's a big 4th, 5th, and 6th grade class coming up from Moore's Mill. They're going to be back above 600, and that's why we have that asterisk in there too. So, yeah, I feel like we do that, though, to take care of not just New Hope or Madison County, but we did it to take care of Meridianville, and we did it to take care of Buckhorn Middle, and we did it to take care of Monrovia Middle, and we did it to take care of Sparkman High School and Sparkman 9 and Sparkman Middle. So, I mean, because it added a middle, Spartan Middle's never had 3 APs until this year. So, I mean, we lowered the contract lengths down to 187 to be able to, to afford to do this, and we lowered the contract lengths for high school APs from 217 to 202 to help pay for it. So, that said, it was still costly in there, but I would say we're not doing this to just try to help one little group population, but it's for for all of our students at large. And we try to take a comprehensive look at this to do that. And it's not perfect, and it needs to be revisited every year and be discussed and vetted and grilled. And so I'm okay with that. Otherwise, we'd have just kept with the old schedule and, just kind of gone with the flow.
Any further discussion? If there is none, all those in favor of recommendation for the approval of the assistant principal and counselor allocations as attached, say aye.
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 All right, I recommend approval of the 2020-2021 school calendar. You have this hard copy in front of you here.
Have we had this out for, well,
I need a-
motion?
I need a motion. Yeah,
Motion,
thanks.
sorry.
Second.
Has this been out for our employees to see?
We vetted this a while back, and we kind of pushed pause to wait on our sister systems.
I was going to ask that.
That said, after we got kind of the feedback from folks, I don't think we've necessarily run that back through them. It's been a while since they probably looked at it, but I bet we've been sitting on this for probably 4 or 5 months. Ken's been like going, when are we going to approve this one? It's like, well, Huntsville and Madison were having a debate of when they were going to do their spring breaks, and so we're trying to wait on them to kind of either one of them jump first or both of them kind of figure it out. So they figured it out or jumped first or something. So anyway, we're ready to, it kind of fell in line what we wanted to do.
I see we've jumped back into July for staff development days. I mean, this year we're starting school, and this August will be on the 7th. Next year it'll be on the 5th.
Yeah, so we always try to start the first Wednesday for students in August. What we've got from teachers is the Wednesday start day is very important. They don't want to start on a Monday, they don't want to start on a Tuesday, and they don't want to start on a Thursday. That lets 3 days for kindergarten phase in and a 3-day starting week for kind of middle and high schoolers. They're done after 3 days. So when you do that, it changes that date. So like this year, we started on the 1st with students. Next year, we're starting on the 7th with students. And I don't know, because of leap year or not leap year or whatever, it ticks back down every year. So it'll be on the 5th. If we keep doing that, 2021, 2022 will be on the 4th and the 3rd, and then it resets and goes back to the 7th. So basically, this year was the tough year. It's either you got to start on the August 1st or August 8th, and we probably should have started on August 8th, honestly, if we could rewind 3 years ago when we approved that. But we do have, what is unique about this though. So that said, our, starting in July for staff development is not odd, but 6 days of staff development is odd. We've never had 6. This will be the first time we've had 6. Will we have 6 next year, Tim? Okay, so next year will be the first year we have 6, July coming up, and this also keeps it 6. It's just kind of the way the contract days fit. We have one thing of note is 178 school days. Is that right, Ken? 178 school days. We extended our elementary days to be able to make sure we're meeting the requirements by law to do that. But so that did do that. We could, it's kind of picking on what other day would you want to use as a staff development if you saved a day in July.
Graduation days, 25, 26. Okay. Any additional discussion?
How many days of those staff development days are teachers just in their classroom being able to do? They still have those days?
Yeah, so this year, we actually, it may have been the first year this year, last year may have been the first year, but we basically said this is a teacher work day in the classroom, and we had told local schools, don't have meetings, don't do staff development, let teachers have a day to work in their classrooms. And what we kind of found is they typically pick that day, elementaries, to have their open house that night, so they could get their room ready for the open house. So I'm trying to see, do we have that in this calendar? But generally, like, on the 28th through the 31st, and then the 3rd and the 4th. The teacher work day, there it is. August the 3rd on here would be that teacher work day. That means don't plan any activities on August the 3rd. That's our work day. Is our Institute Day on the 4th? Tim, we probably hadn't reserved the VBC yet on that. So that August 4th may change. Do we need to take that off, Ken, or is that?
I mean, it can be TBA, because that all depends on like when you guys decide to set. I mean, we're talking about 2 years out. So
Right.
when you set the open house will become the teacher workday. So what we try and do is clump the 4 together so that for Mr. Solly's department, instructional department, they can arrange the staff development pieces. If we have to go over and use the Monday, then we replace it with the Thursday, whenever the open houses are. So there's some flexibility there. It's just the thing is that the Alabama Education Association and NCTA have asked that we identify at some point a day that is strictly a teacher day so that they can work in the classrooms unencumbered by anything else. And so it is kind of it's negotiated as we get closer to that and we know who we can get for speakers and
Yeah.
such, because the institute is also could be changed.
And they don't necessarily like Institute being the day before school. We kind of got that feedback. So next year, this summer, our Institute's going to be on Friday. And so they'll come back and have work days Monday and Tuesday before Wednesday. So what we would probably do, even though this says Institute on August the 4th, which is the day before kids come back, we would probably avoid August the 4th.
And we could put on
But
there
that's-
for the final one, we could put TBA for the, where it says staff development, the 20th through 31st, and the 3rd and 4th, we could put TBD to be determined, that would, if you feel better about that for, on the final draft.
Might be having that at Sparkman, and
So, I mean,
right, Carrie? Fall of 2020.
You say so, sir.
Have that project done.
but then if the superintendent wants to do that, we can do, we can put TBD on there in the parentheses until we know definitive what the.
Just as long as we know we got one, for sure.
Yeah. We did want to declare teacher work day. That was
Right.
a request from
Right.
our teachers.
Well, and that's legitimate. Their summer is short, and they should, a lot of them will be in schools many days that are not coded for them to be in school. But we should provide them at least one day to prepare their rooms. And those high school people ought to prepare their rooms too.
Should.
Everybody likes something inviting.
They do.
Any additional discussion? All those in favor of the proposed 2020-2021 school calendar, say aye.
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 Stowe, were you lecturing me there?
She was.
High school teacher. I feel
I
like.
just, I've been in several rooms.
All right, challenge to high school teachers.
I just know that one of my kids, when he went to high school the first day, he came back to my room, he says, "It's not homey."
That's going to be their most important issue, is a decorative classroom from our scouts. Thanks, guys. Y'all have a safe evening.
Thank you.
All right, I recommend approval for the following contracts for services as attached.
Motion.
Second.
I have a motion and a second for recommendation of approval of the following contracts for services as attached. Any discussion? If there's no additional discussion, all those in favor say aye.
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 All right, I recommend approval for the probationary contracts for Jennifer Witt for Sparkman Middle School.
Motion.
Second.
Okay.
Does that affect this?
Not on this recommendation.
Okay. So I got a motion and a second? That's okay. Got a motion and a second on the recommendation for approval of the probationary contracts for the following principals, effective July 1st. Mrs. Jennifer Witt, Sparkman Middle School. Any discussion? If there's no additional discussion, all those in favor say aye.
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 All right,
Okay.
give me 1 second here. Okay, I'm going to be making a recommendation for the personnel items, but I do want to pull one out separately. This is number 2 on page 1 on the employment.
Number 2 on page 1.
Yes, ma'am. Just want to leave that spot open.
Unemployment.
You deleting, gonna delete that completely off or just pull it?
We can leave it off for now. Yeah, we're going to pull it off.
Okay. Okay. So I need a motion and a second.
Motion.
Second.
I have a motion and a second for the recommendation of approval of the following personnel actions, addendum and non-renewal list as submitted with the number 2 on page 1 being deleted. Any discussion?
Do we need to know any reasons behind that deletion?
Yeah, we probably need to discuss that. We need to leave that spot open for now, for potential other.
Any additional discussion on the recommendation? If there is none, all those in favor say aye.
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 All right, I recommend approval of the following supplemental contracts as attached.
Motion.
Second.
I have a motion and a second for the recommendation of approval of the following supplemental contracts as submitted. Any discussion? If there's no additional discussion, all those in favor say aye.
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 Aye. Okay.
We can take a break and then do the work session.
Okay, yes, that ends our regular session for this evening. We're going to take a few minutes break. I think, Matt, we're going to reset and do the work session
Right.
up there. So we're going to take about a five-minute break to reset, and then we will re-adjourn for the work session. I need a motion. Do I need a motion to?
You need a motion to adjourn.
I need a motion?
You're closing one session.
Yeah.
Motion to adjourn the.
Second.
Are we adjourned?
I'm sorry, administrator.
Motion, and Nathan, you second that? All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.